And now to the world stage. A major summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin ends with no deal. Trump was hoping to end the war or at least get a ceasefire, but he walked away with neither. We have team coverage of the summit, including reaction from local residents with loved ones in Ukraine. Let's start, though, tonight with Dick Brennan, who has more on what the leaders discussed. Dick?
Well, Christine, President Trump described progress in talks, but refused to say what that was. And at a press conference afterwards, uncharacteristically refused to take any questions. Right now, he's heading back to Washington empty-handed. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin ended the day on a handshake, but no concrete agreement, particularly on a ceasefire in the Ukrainian war.
And I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite got there, but we've made some headway. There's no deal until there's a deal.
Putin has seized about 20% of Ukraine's territory in the war. 400,000 Ukrainians have been killed or wounded, and nearly 1 million Russian soldiers. Putin, for his part, lavishly praised Trump, but also gave no indications that he was making concessions.
As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security.
The joint statements by Trump and Putin came after hours of talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was not invited, but later on Fox News, Trump suggested another meeting would take place that would include Zelensky.
It's up to President Zelensky. I think we are, and if they'd like, I'll be at that next meeting. They're going to set up a meeting now between President Zelensky and President Putin. And myself, I guess, you know, I didn't ask you about it. Not that I want to be there, but I want to make sure it gets done.
Before the talks, Trump had threatened severe consequences on Russia if Putin didn't agree to end the war. But now critics say the Russian president was the big winner in the talks.
Trump got nothing, but Putin walked away with no further sanctions on Russia or any of Russia's major trading partners who've enabled him in the war. He got the red carpet treatment and the ability to say he's welcome back in the international community.
And as for those potential severe consequences against Russia, Trump said tonight after the talks that he doesn't have to think about that because the talks went well, but he did say he might have to think about that in a few weeks. Christy.
Okay, Dick, thank you. Meantime, Ukrainian Americans remain hopeful that a ceasefire is in sight because they are worried about their loved ones still in Ukraine. Alecia Reid reports.
Olha Harbis's parents and relatives still live in Ukraine. She says they stay in underground bunkers for several hours every day and night for fear of being bombed.
They can't sleep, they can't go work. It was like, it's like a hell. When I wake up, I read all news and I call mom, everything is good because I really scared.
She says the future of her family's safety is on the line. They, along with millions across the world, watched this evening's summit with President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, waiting to hear if a ceasefire was in the works.
Ceasefire. It's about time to do that.
After nearly 4 years of the war in Ukraine, international affairs specialist Andrei Dobryansky says 12 cities in Ukraine have been eradicated. Millions have been displaced, and civilians continue to be killed and injured.
They have put so many landmines on that territory that this is the most landmine territory in the world, and it will take several lifetimes to remove the landmines from that territory.
But the president of Ukraine Institute of America says she has mixed feelings about the Friday night summit in Alaska.
Making any decisions without the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian president being involved would be disrespectful to all of the horrors that Ukraine has faced.
There is shock the meeting was held on American soil.
I don't like that Putin come to U.S. because he is criminal.
He knows he can't travel anywhere else. He knows he'll get arrested anywhere else.
On August 24th, Ukraine will celebrate 34 years of independence. People we spoke to say it's not just about the ceasefire. There are other things on the table, like returning the children that have been kidnapped. Alecia Reid, CBS News, New York.
For the latest on the meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, as well as the ongoing efforts to end the war in Ukraine, go to cbsnewyork.com.